Hi, this is Bibi Beba, and we're talking about corporate wellness today, which saves companies $3.27 on medical costs and $2.73 on absentee day costs for every dollar spent, according to a recent analysis. Today, we will be talking about another layer in corporate wellness. As Randy Dukoff has previously mentioned, when you peel the corporate layer in corporate wellness, you reach the real people who need help to change their lives. So today, we will be talking about this. My guest, Ellen Goldman, is Well Coaches certified professional health and wellness coach. Ellen created her company Energy Coaching LLC in 2007 to help business professionals and entrepreneurs get self-care back on their daily to-do list. She helps busy business professionals to get healthier, lose weight, manage stress, increase productivity, balance their lives, and feel happier overall. As president of Energy Coaching, she does personal and group coaching, motivational speaking, corporate workshops, and professional mentorships. She subcontracts for Well Coaches as a corporate coach for employee-assisted coaching programs. She is also a contributing author to several sources, including SparkPeople.com and Huffington Post. Welcome, Ellen. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you decide to work on corporate wellness?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me to be here with you. My background is actually in the health and wellness industry. It has been since I graduated college. I came out of school, actually thought that I was going to be a gym teacher, but that never happened. Through different avenues, discovered that I really loved fitness, but I loved adult fitness. I did work with kids for a little while, but I didn't want to be in the school setting. And so it's kind of serpentined over the past 30 years or so in working in different types of adult fitness programming, business management in health clubs, things such as that. And then eventually landed me to create my own personal training business. And I really did that initially in order to set my own hours and work when I wanted to work while I was raising my children. And I did that for many, many years. And over the education of constantly going to continuing ed type conferences, things like that, I learned about the field of life coaching. And what went off in my mind was kind of like that light bulb of this is the missing piece that I've been looking for all along. Because in the fitness industry, as I'm sure you have also noticed in the nutrition industry, unfortunately, our failure rate usually exceeds our success rate. There's no loss of individuals who are looking for help and information, but getting them to actually take the steps that will change was just not happening. I mean, we have so much information and we're constantly out there giving it to people, but they're struggling to actually make the behavioral changes, and that is what coaching is. Coaching is the psychology of behavioral change. So I kind of decided that I was going to increase my education and learning and certifications and become a life coach, and then specialize in fitness and wellness, which then takes me to the discovery of learning about a company called Well Coaches. And I know you had a lot of questions about Well Coaches and my relationship with them. Well Coaches early on was it actually was the first coaching school that was strictly dedicated to healthcare professionals. They came on the arena to say, we're going to train coaches in coaching psychology, but we are going to try and change people who have a health and wellness background. So I got my certification through Well Coaches when they were a very new company, and then began to try and combine the education that I had around coaching with my fitness business. And that in itself is kind of an emerging story of how I kind of serpentined and sort of not completely left fitness behind, but now, fast forward to the present, my business is really devoted to coaching, growing my business, and helping people learn how to change their behavior using wellness as a foundation to any change that they're trying to create in their life.
Well, that's a great thing. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Like, coaching and helping people, holding their hands while when they're making the change is the biggest thing many people need. It's not only the changes, but how to do the changes is the missing component. I totally agree with you. So, like, you said you work with well coaches currently, contract basis. Can you tell, like, how does the employee assistant coaching programs work? What are your day-to-day tasks? Do you work in like certain companies or like, per project? How does it work?
Okay. So, well coaches' primary business is in teaching and certifying coaches. That is really primarily what they do. Um, there is a side business that they're also doing where they go to corporations and try and sell them employee assisted coaching programs. It would be part of an employee benefit package. I am one of their corporate coaches. What that means is, let's say they sell a company who says, yes, we want to do this. This is for how long. This is how many employees will be accessible and available to take advantage of this program. Well Coaches then knows how many hours of coaching they need and how many coaches they're going to need. So I am one of the coaches that they will call and say, this is the company that we're going to go into. Are you available to work? How much do you want to work? So it's a beautiful setup for me because I can take as much or as little work as I want. And that, of course, depends on what's going on in my private company, my personal business company. But that work is kind of sporadic. It can come and then it could be years before another opportunity is there. So I don't look at that as a primary source of income for my business, but it's a lovely side income when it's available.
Okay.
The other work that I do for Well Coaches, because of my long-term relationship with them and because of the fact that I've done their advanced programs and certifications, I do exams, I'm an examiner for the people that are going through the training program. When they are done, there's several different things they have to do to get their certification, and one of them is to sit for an oral exam. So I am one of the examiners who will do that. The other thing that I will do is we offer a mentor program. So if you've gone through the program, you're getting ready to take your exam, and you want to work with a coach to help prepare you for the exam, I'm one of the mentor coaches that will do that.
Great.
So again, it's subcontracted business. It's a small piece of my overall company. But it's not where I spend the primary hours of my week.
So how did you first start? Did you first start with like, working with well coaches, or did you first start like, finding clients in the corporate world? How did it like, is that the chicken egg story?
Yeah, a little bit. But basically, well coaches right away, you know that they're not a job recruitment company. Although when you are involved in the organization, they definitely have access and information about upcoming jobs all the time. So if you stay involved in their newsletters and you're on their LinkedIn groups, you will often see opportunities that if you were out there looking for a job, you would pursue. But for me, really what it went was, I actually had this vision that originally, once I got trained, that all my personal training clients were going to want to have coaching. Like, why wouldn't they, right? They were watching me go through the process. They were getting excited about it. But it took a very short amount of time to realize that, yes, they wanted coaching, but they were already paying me to do personal training. They really didn't want to pay me more to do coaching.
Yeah.
And I discovered very quickly that, for me, you can't train and coach at the same time. One or the other is going to suffer. They're two different skills. So if I'm really concentrating on the exercise prescription and helping somebody go through an exercise program, which is what personal training is, that is quite different than the coaching conversation that's digging deep into what's going on and what obstacles they came across that perhaps prevented them from getting to the gym. on the days when they're not seeing me. So it was really two very different things. And I realized that if I wanted to grow this coaching business, I better get out there and find clients who were going to hire me to be a coach, not a personal trainer. So that was a big transition. And although I was certified in 2005 with Well Coaches and kind of went out with, my little card that said Ellen Goldman, Well Coaches Certified Professional Coach, that I really was going to have to do a lot more and learn how to create a company. And so in 2007 is when I decided that I was going to become a LLC that was a wellness coaching company and begin to learn how to promote my own company. So although, again, I always consider Well Coaches a partnership for me. I am dear friends with, the CEO and many of the faculty members, and they have been phenomenal mentors for me. Many of them already had the faculty, many of them had thriving coaching practices when they began, when I met them. So they've all been my, wonderful mentors, and it's a great family that I can call on and bat ideas around or just share, exciting victories with and all. But again, now it's really the path is growing energy coaching.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have been hearing a lot of nice things about Well Coaches. So it's actually good to have this feedback from you as well. So you on the entrance to the corporate coaching, you definitely recommend the new nutrition professionals to at least connect with Well Coaches, I guess, right? Through LinkedIn and be informed on what they're doing, what the opportunities are.
Absolutely. Because I think it's really important to understand that the skill of being a dietitian or a nutritionist is very different than the skill of being a coach.
Yep.
One of the biggest challenges initially that you have as a professional, if you decide to add coaching to your toolbox of way, the way you help clients, is when to be the nutritionist, dietitian, the expert who is giving expert information, and when to take off the expert hat and help your client figure out their own answers.
That's a very, very good point that you're highlighting. I guess I never realized that since I started from the other way. First, I was a health coach. I learned the coaching. Now I went back, to get my nutrition master's. But many of my classmates or other nutritionists I know are starting from their health degree and then going towards the coaching, and that's a very important distinction to at least acknowledge in their lives and to work on. And Well Coaches, I see that it is a great place that they can get certified. If we get back to the your business, energy coaching, so where do you want to take the energy coaching to?
Oh, well, it's that's a really interesting question. I like to say that I've been on this incredible journey. I'm actually coaching for a decade now. Energy coaching will turn 10 years old in 2017. That's only a year and a half away. And I say that I've been on this incredible journey that I just keep taking all these turns, and I don't really know where it's going to be leading me. If there are things that I am doing now that if back in 2007 you had told me I'd be doing, I'd be saying, yeah, I don't think so. But different opportunities come along, and you got to have your kind of yardstick on measuring whether they're worth pursuing or not, or whether you want to pursue them and not go there. So right now, to answer that question, energy coaching is actually going through a huge change right now. I am in the process of totally rebranding. The company name is actually going to be changing. I'm going to shortly be going from energy coaching to LNG coaching. The reason behind that is, well, there's a couple of reasons, but one of the main reasons is that through my education in business, which has had its own journey, I knew nothing about marketing and promoting a business when I went into this. But what I'm seeing in the coaching world, most of the really successful coaches, they brand around their name.
Yep.
So, and now that my name is out there, my platform is out there, my name is important to be connected to all the time. The only reason I'm not going with Ellen Goldman coaching is because it's way too popular a name. If you Google Ellen Goldman, there's thousands.
I know that. I tried that.
So it's going to be taking on a new look and a new feel to it. And when I first started, I sort of went into this as a very generic wellness coach. If you had a body, I could help you. And through my own journey, discovered that really my niche and my joy and what I really, really love, who I really, really love working with is the corporate CEOs, the higher managers, the entrepreneurs who have incredibly successful careers, but truly are struggling when it comes to their personal lives and self-care. So my brand and my website and all of those things need to really reflect that that's who I work with.
Wow.
So that's the first kind of change of where I'm taking this company. Once I do that, my speaking has always been what's grown my company. I love my speaking engagements, and I've been having a slow success rate in getting out there and platforming. I'd love to grow my speaking a lot more. I love to travel, love the opportunity to speak on different stages and in different places, be able to start reaching many to one versus one to one. You know, a very big problem in working as a coach, especially if you decide to go into entrepreneurship where you're a solopreneur, you know, your income to some degree is going to reflect the number of hours that you have available to work one-to-one with clients. So finding ways to reach one-to-many is the direction that I'm looking to go. So that includes the speaking. It also includes the development of products, which is kind of a blending of teaching with a coaching psychology behind it, if that makes sense. It's not going to be the same as a one-to-one coaching conversation, but it's taking people through a 6-week, that's just an example, like online education, which is a huge new field. You even mentioned you're doing your education online. Online education is growing tremendously, and there are people that are out there looking. So I'm taking various different niches, you know, weight loss, productivity, stress management, and I hope that I'll be developing different products that people can access online.
Wow.
To experience not just getting the education, but getting it very differently than from a prescriptive of, here's what you need to do, just follow this A, B, C, D, and it'll work. Because we know that doesn't work. It's more of an education and a workshop around figuring out what it is they want, how to change it, and creating a program. It's about creating your own personal program for whatever the change is that you want. Because let's face it, your life is different and unique than everybody else's. So, product development, niching, and speaking, and last but not least is that I have actually just this year for the first time been contracted by a small corporation to go in and do a corporate wellness program for them. And I'm working on kind of perfecting this model that I do hope will be a, what's the word I'm looking for? A model to take to other
layout.
So
That's
where this will bring, I don't know. We'll talk again in 5 years and I'll let you know.
You have a full plate as of now. So that's interesting. Like, you know, are you currently working with this company, or are you still in the process of like, you know, creating a program?
No, we actually just began. We were probably took about 6 months of conversation and writing proposals and figuring out budgets, and we actually just began in April.
Wow, congratulations. So is it like, you know, like a periodical, like, you know, going to the company and educating, or does it have a component where you need to be there for a certain period of time? And
basically how we worked this out, and it was a lot around both their budget and what it would be worth it for me to walk out of my office and actually put my own clients on hold. And so basically what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be going in there 4 times a year for 4 days at a time. And I will be taking all of the employees, and it's a very small company. We're talking about 20 employees, but they're a subsidiary of a much larger company. So this is a bit of a pilot for them as well. So we're going to be what I'll be doing is 4 times a year going in and doing a coaching conversation over 4 days with each of these employees, helping them create a vision, some goals, some very specific 3-month targets, and then every 3 months I'll be coming back in to have another coaching conversation. And in between that, there will be some scattered lunch and learns where I will be going in, and that will be more of an educational based. It'll also be an opportunity for them to see me one more time. So really what that means is that 8 times of the year they will be seeing me, but they also have access to me via email all year round.
That's amazing. That's actually very motivating, seeing more and more, even the smaller companies focusing on corporate wellness. So I'm just curious, when this company approached you or you approached them, what was the thing in their mind? Were they, focused on return on investment, or were they focused on employee health benefits, or just, just offering something to, retain the talent? What do you think their, primary goal was?
They approached me. This was here's a wonderful example of how Well Coaches has helped me so much, is that when the CEO of this company made a decision that he wanted to bring in some kind of a wellness component for his employees, he did a lot of, I don't know whether it was through LinkedIn or various different things, he did a lot of talking, and somewhere along the lines, he was given the name Well Coaches. He went to the Well Coaches website, and because I have a business license through Well Coach, he searched for wellness coaches in New Jersey, and I was one of the names he came up with. He went from there directly to my website, liked what he saw, and called me.
Wow.
So even though he was not given my name directly, if he had not found me on Well Coaches, he probably never would have. Well, maybe if he had Googled Well Coaches in New Jersey, he probably would have found me. But that was sort of how that happened. And I think just the professionalism of being associated with such a large company made a difference. So he approached me, and mainly his main motivation, and I'm not at liberty to tell you the company I'm working with, there's a whole privacy issue that's involved with this, but the motivation behind it was that this is a company that up until quite recently was getting 100% medical insurance through the parent company. And the parent company, after years of doing this, said, we can't afford this anymore. Your employees are going to have to contribute towards their insurance.
Oh, okay.
He felt very badly about this, that because he's got employees that have worked for him for 15 years and more. So he wanted to soften that, and so he figured that if he could get employees to participate, he would reduce the percentage that they would have to participate in their insurance costs.
Very clever.
So there certainly was a monetary benefit to the employee to partake in this program. The question, what can he expect on rate of investment, of course came up in our discussions. And really, I think it's easier to imagine it in a small company where every single person in that company knows each other intimately. They know each other's patterns. He knows every one of his employees who's out sick because of back pain or other things like that. He really was looking at it in that, first, I think there was a genuine, heartfelt wanting to help employees be healthier. I don't really think that his main thing was like, how much per se am I going to save? I also think that he feels tremendous loyalty, and that he wanted to continue that. And I think that is one of the biggest return on investments. Every time an employee leaves, you have to retrain them, and it costs quite a lot of money for the company. Every time an employer is out sick, it costs you money to bring in a temp. I mean, it's really hard to to measure those.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them become also very subjective changes in that, let's face it, a healthier employee, somebody who has more energy on a day-to-day basis, is going to be a higher producer.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's, pretty hard to put that into dollars and cents.
Yeah. I mean, as a former employer, I know, how it, for former employee, I know how it feels when you're drained, when you cannot work, you feel so heavy, bloated, versus when you're energized, you just, work with 100% efficiency. And then, there are some days that you, decrease to 20% or 25%, which is basically like the presentism, which is you're present and not working. So
Exactly.
it is costing a lot to the company.
Right. So I do think that he took all of that into consideration, but I do not think, and I could be wrong, but he certainly has not shared with me that he is expecting at the end of the year to see that this program made him money. I don't think that's what he's... Yeah. That would be a beautiful outcome.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was his main motivation.
So, you don't have an return on investment goal, which is, but you have healthier employees and happier employees goal, which is a great thing.
Yes.
So, in terms of, going to your own clients, you said you see your clients. Do you see them in your office or in their own offices? How does it work?
I don't travel to anybody. Most of my business is done via the telephone. Some of my clients like to use Skype. Some actually like being anonymous of not seeing each other, and that's just the voice on the phone. If I get clients who live locally, which does certainly happen, and they choose that they want to do face-to-face coaching, I do have a studio from my personal training days, and so yes, sometimes they will travel to me.
Okay.
But the majority is usually by telephone or Skype.
And how do you find your current clients, or how do you grow your client base?
There's three main divisions where my clients come from.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is absolutely my speaking engagements. Hands down, has been one of the best ways for me to grow my business. Somebody meets me. I don't think we're at a point yet where many people wake up and say, I think I'm going to look to hire a life coach or a wellness coach. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit more life coaching, certainly more executive business coaches.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think a whole bunch of people wake up and say, I got to get healthier, I'm going to hire a wellness coach. I think, they'll say, I need a personal trainer, or I need a dietitian,
mm-hmm.
Or maybe I need to start going for massage therapy because I'm so stressed out. But I do not believe that wellness coach is what comes to their mind.
Mm-hmm.
When they see me and they meet me and they hear me talking and then afterwards have some conversation, and I offer and say, you know what, you're never going to understand coaching with me explaining it to you, and it doesn't really matter. If this is what you're looking for, I can help you get there. Let's get on the phone, experience some coaching with me. So certainly through speaking engagements.
Yeah.
The second, and these are probably tied, my online writing is a huge source.
Mm-hmm.
People start to follow my articles, and suddenly I will get a phone call that say, I saw your article on sparkpeople.com.
I did too.
And I'd love to talk to you about, what you're doing and whether you can help me.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly, last but not least, is through networking. One of the reasons that I decided that I wanted to work with business professionals was not only through being exposed to it through well coaches, but when I started going out there and networking and marketing my business, what became very apparent to me is, entrepreneurs in my mind are very creative, brilliant, smart, fun individuals. You've got to be the kind of person that thinks out of the box to say, I'm going to start my own company. And they don't realize that they have all of these incredible strengths that they're pouring into their business, and they were really neglecting their health. And I heard a lot of stories. When I would talk about weight loss coaching, people would say, oh my God, I've gained like 15 pounds since I started my business. Or, oh gosh, I used to work out all the time and like now I never get to the gym. There's just not enough time. And really, more than anything, all that combined together was I'm exhausted all the time. I love what I'm doing. But I'm exhausted, and they were coming very close to facing burnout. And, I was out there doing exactly the same thing. I was growing a business, raising a family.
Yeah.
I know how exhausting it is. There is never a day or a moment where there's not something else to do when you're in business for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is very easy to let that overpower your need to take care of yourself. And so, that was my passion, was to show business professionals you don't have to neglect self-care. Sorry about that. I keep silencing it, but it keeps coming back. You don't have to neglect self-care to grow your business. And in many, many ways, self-care should be the foundation that will help you grow your business, which is where my tagline of personal health leads to business wealth comes from.
Absolutely, I fully agree. So you said speaking engagements. Do you do speaking engagements in the corporations or outside?
Both.
Okay,
Both.
how do you arrange them?
I started the journey, speaking for free to pretty much anybody who I thought would listen to me. That could be community centers and the local library and Chamber of Commerce and women's associations and things like that. As the business grew, and I realized that I really need to start making sure that if I'm going to leave my office to go out to do a speaking engagement or leave my home to go do that it needed to be to my target audience. So I learned to start saying no to some opportunities and yes to the ones that were my target audience. And the more I started getting into my target audience, what usually happens is, now my target audience is business professionals. And so suddenly what will happen is at the end of a speaking engagement, somebody will say, I work for such and such a company. We do, this luncheon once a year, and I would love to see you come and talk to the company. Can I put you in touch with my HR department? I'm like, yes, please. So that's really how that kind of snowballed into getting me in the ground. I've also been contacted by, there are companies out there that they subcontract wellness professionals to go into corporations where they've sold corporate wellness programs, and I've been contacted by a lot of them. Most of the time, truthfully, the economic reimbursement is not worth it for me to leave my own practice. On occasion, it is. So that's actually how I kind of started with Lunch and Learns, and then started putting them together.
Yeah.
Once I sort of said, well, this works really well and this is really received, then I learned to, come out and ask, hey, you're working for such and such an insurance company or you're working for such and such a bank. Do they do Lunch and Learns?
Okay, that's a great idea.
The person who arranges that.
Yeah. In terms of compensation, do you feel you're sufficiently compensated for your expertise?
At this point, yes. I am probably at this point one of the higher paid coaches as far as wellness coaches go. Yes, absolutely. There are some that make more money than I do. But I kind of hear, because I also do a lot of mentor coaching with young coaches, and I mean that young, not in terms of chronological age, but in terms of individuals who are just adding coaching to their arena, and they really don't know where to begin. And although I am not a business coach, I've learned a lot along the way. So I will have some coaches who will hire to work with me for a short period of time to help get them started. And number one question that most have is, should I go into entrepreneurship or should I go look for a job? And that's a huge question to answer because entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I just realized that I just got that little sign that says low battery. I accidentally kicked my power source from my computer. I don't want it to die. Give me a second to just plug this back in.
Of course.
after?
We were talking about the compensation. Like, you know, you were
Okay.
working with like, you know,
Right.
younger
Right.
coaches.
So it's a really hard decision to make. How much are you going to charge for your services?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has to be a balance of, you have to consider what you're doing of tremendous value.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you're going to charge very little. And people are going to sense, this is pretty cheap. And number one, they will not be as invested in it. You know, let's face it, when you invest your money in something, the more you invest, the more value it says for you. You know, you invested a lot of money in the online education course that you're taking now. I'm sure that because of that investment, you're darn sure you're going to complete it.
Oh yeah.
You know, if it had cost you $50, then you might say, yeah, it was interesting, but you know, whatever. You wouldn't take it as seriously, and I think coaches need to start thinking about it. But I think that the only way to have that confidence is you have to have the skill level. So you need to learn to be a great coach. You need to continue your coach education.
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a point where you have to also say, how much do I want to make, do I need to make in order to stay in business?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of, you know, questions that you have to ask yourself. Take yourself through that coaching process and figure it out. But you got to feel confident in your ability to, and the more you coach, when you begin to see that you really make a change in people's lives, I mean, how do you put a price on somebody's health? And how do you put a price on somebody's wellness? They'll end up spending a lot more if, God forbid, they get really sick and they can't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, spending their days going to doctors. You know, and I don't use fear as a motivator, but if you learn to present what somebody is really going to get, what the benefit of working with you is, then it becomes, you know, as the old American express, priceless.
Absolutely. Well, Ellen, you actually covered a lot of the questions that I was going to ask you, all the benefits that I was going to ask you. Yep, it's definitely priceless. Can you just share an inspiring story? I mean, your story is overall very inspiring, but like, you know, from your client's perspective, can you share a inspiring story of a business professional that you work with? It could be like a business that you saw the change to.
Sure. I'll share with you two stories, and the reason I'm going to say two is because the first one is actually a pretty heartbreaking story, but I think it's so incredibly important. I was working with a young woman in a corporate setting, and this was an employee-assisted corporate program, which meant that she was given the coaching as part of a benefit. It wasn't somebody who hired me and was taking money out of their own pocket, and that's sometimes a bit of a problem. You know, I definitely get much more loyalty and seriousness from the person who's writing their own check.
That's an interesting distinction, by the way.
But this particular woman really was just like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I can't believe they're doing this for us. This is so great. And she embraced the coaching full head on. And basically, she had risen up the corporate ladder very quickly. She was pretty young, and she was loving her job and burning out big time. She had completely stopped exercising when she had been an amazing, you know, athlete and somebody who was very serious about her exercise. Her eating habits were slipping terribly, and she was living on about 5 hours of sleep a night.
Wow.
You know, she really had no life-work balance whatsoever. And we did an incredible amount of coaching together, and she was like, you know, your perfect client, and she got, you know, embraced the changes, and little by little got herself back into the gym. She started cutting back on the number of hours that she would, you know, answering calls at home. She stopped taking work home and you know, getting the sleep and whatever. And I actually had not heard from her for about 6 months. The program had ended.
Mm-hmm.
And I got an email from her that really, truly, the heartbreaking part of it is that she shared with me that a really dear friend of hers who was living a very similar lifestyle to what she had been living fell asleep at the wheel of the car on her way home from work at like 10 o'clock at night. And it was a fatal accident. And yeah, it sends like the chills up you, right? And she sent me an email and said, thank you, because that could have been me.
Oh my.
And, so yeah, I see it's bringing tears to your eyes. It brings tears to me when I think of that story, and we still are in touch with each other all the time. And that, to me, although it is a sad story, and it's, like I said, I don't like using fear as a motivator, it's a real story, and people have to understand this is real, and this could change your life. And for her, it was. So that's, on one side. But now I'll show you an inspiring one. I also worked, and this is somebody that did hire me privately. I worked with the president and CEO of a major, major corporation who found me online and basically hired me initially for weight loss. And she had lots of challenges because the company that she worked for was a food company.
Oh, my.
And through our coaching together, what she realized is some of the obstacles that she talked about, like crap food at meetings and tastings and things like that, and difficulty when she was on the road in terms of getting her exercise in, and the food that she had when she was traveling. And this woman traveled probably 1 week out of every a month. That many of those things were in her control, including what food was ordered when they had corporate meetings.
Yeah.
So little by little, she started making some changes. She started having some tremendous success for herself. But one of the changes that she started making was to actually shut down and to start taking a formal lunch break, which she had not done in years. And she chose to start walking around outside her the parking lot of the building. And she had an employee say, "Oh God, I watch you every day. I so admire you're doing that." And she said, "Well, why don't you join me?" And she said, "Really?" And she said, "Oh, you're way too fast for me." And she said, "That's okay. Come join me." Anyway, the long and the short of it is that she shortly started a walking club, Lunches Walking Club at her company.
Perfect.
And they would go several times a week. And for her, one of the greatest joys that she had is that when she was the next business trip that she took, they went walking even though she wasn't there to kind of say, okay, well, today, 12 o'clock, guys. So there's that trickle effect that comes through too.
Wow.
Which, really goes to show that when it comes to corporate fitness, and I know that that's what your primary interest is, so much of it depends on the corporate culture. And so much of it depends on the mindset of that person who's making decisions.
Yep.
If the company president of the company I'm working for now did not believe that this is really important, if he didn't believe that it was okay for his employees to take a lunch break, to, stop working to do a coaching session with me, they would not do it. It's really hard to say, I'm going to take a lunch break when the president doesn't. And the same thing, with this woman, when she gave that, I am the busiest person in this organization, but I take time for lunch, I take time for a workout, I think that health is important, that trickles down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what's going to make the difference in corporate fitness, is when we can get the executives and the CEOs and the president to really embrace that a healthy employee is a productive employee. It's going to change. We got a lot to go, a long, long way, but it is happening, and that's exciting.
Ellen, you're doing an amazing job. Like the ripple effect that you're creating by working with those CEOs, presidents, that's definitely priceless as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm so glad that we could arrange this interview, and you just, arrange your time to talk with me. I so appreciate this, and thank you for all you shared. Is there anything that I missed? Is there anything that you'd like to add before we end?
No, just, if any of your students are out there, I really believe that there is enough work for all of us
Oh,
out
yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so important that people who are going to do the job of what we're doing are trained properly. And that they are understanding the seriousness of what they're doing when they, as you said earlier when we first started talking, that hand-holding, that accountability, that partnering with somebody is an enormous responsibility. So it is really important to get the proper training, to continuously perfect your skills, to stay within the boundaries of what you're trained to do, not overstep those, and just, keep getting out there and letting the world know about coaching and what coaching can do. And so certainly if any of your, the students want to email me, they're welcome to, or...
Thank you. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, my contact information is all on my website, or you can certainly share it with them. And I wish everybody great success. We've got a big job to do together.
Thank you. I appreciate your help with this interview, and I'm sure both our instructor and my other students in the class would love that. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.